Explorers of the unknown and podcast enthusiasts from every corner of the globe, welcome to a journey like no other. I'm your host, Erin McCann, and I am absolutely thrilled to introduce you to Something About the Ice, a 90 Degrees South podcast. Hello, and welcome to Something About the Ice, a monthly behind-the-scenes podcast for 90 Degrees South, where we'll discuss the show and its origins, recap previous episodes which have aired, learn about the show's cast and creators, and make sure to address some listener questions. We wanted to release the premiere episode of the Behind the Scenes sister podcast to all of our fans and give a sneak preview of what they'll receive if they decide to subscribe and become a Patreon supporter of 90 Degrees South. Further episodes of Something About the Ice will only be available to our Patreon subscribers at the Behind the Scenes tier level. With 2 seasons completed and season 3 underway, half a dozen trailers and specials in between, we're starting our podcast this week with the show's creator, Brian Bradley, as well as voice actors Trent Shumway and Kyle Brown. Future episodes will have other cast members on a recurring basis. Make sure you listen to the full episode for a very exciting announcement from award-winning writer, voice actor, and show creator Kyle Brown. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. Gentlemen, I'm going to have you introduce yourselves and tell the fans just a little bit about who you are. We're going to start with my dear friend and my scene partner, Mr. Trent Shumway. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Trent Shumway. I'm one of the voice actors on 90 Degrees South. I am a voiceover actor, obviously, and I'm also in the visual effects industry for television, film, and commercials, and the like. I've been working in production for about, 30 years, and I've been doing, I think, podcasting, I want to say about 6 years. Is that right, Kyle?
2015, baby.
Is that right? Okay, so 2015.
Yeah.
There you go. So, there you go. I needed help on my introduction, so that gives you every indication that I am not an intelligent individual.
No, not at all. No, that's perfect, Trent. Thank you. And then we're going to move over to my fellow Formula One enthusiast, Mr. Kyle Brown.
I'm Sleepy Joe Biden. I don't know what I'm doing today.
Oh, boy.
I'm here.
We're getting there.
Starting out strong. Starting out strong.
Thank you, Erin. I am a fellow Formula One enthusiast.
I did see the Ferrari sticker on your drink when you hand
Yes,
over.
we're actually going to make this a Formula One podcast.
Okay,
Brian didn't know this was happening.
We'll probably get more listeners.
So, yes, fellow Formula One enthusiast, sometimes writer, full-time buffoon, Kyle Brown.
I think you have a few other redeeming skills, but we'll talk about that as we get into it.
Dick jokes, but I'm trying to keep it clean, kids.
Listen, this first episode is for everyone, so we've got to do whatever we can do to get people to sign on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, and then our fearless leader, Mr. Brian Bradley.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Bradley. I am the responsible party that keeps on throwing out content and mucking up your podcast feeds every couple of weeks. I do apologize for that. I am for whatever reason, I'm the one that all these people kind of look towards to figure out what's going to happen and what's to be said and I don't get it. Someone just said, hey, here's $20. Can you just kind of sit here and try to just deflect all the questions and hey, it was $20. What was I going to do?
Yeah, but I think it was your 20.
Yeah, you paid yourself for this, Brian.
You might be right. I was drinking a lot at the time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Did you notice that the minute I introduced Brian, suddenly he switches into his audio voice and it's like deep and yep, I noticed that.
Super sexy,
I do
Brian.
the
I
same
love
thing.
it.
I definitely have the same thing.
I got no idea what you guys are doing.
Now say, show your right.
Well, so for this show, we've got a handful of questions sort of just about the origin of the show, the direction of the show, and then we're also going to move into listener questions at the end. For all of our episodes, we're going to have both of those segments, but starting on episode 2, we'll actually start recapping some of the episodes that have aired. So just for everybody listening with us today, we're not doing a recap today, but from episode 2 onward, we will. So why don't we just jump into these show questions? And Brian, we are going to start with you. So when you were coming up with the concept of 90 Degrees South and kind of drafting the early parts of this story, why did you set your story at the South Pole and kind of how did this whole story come to be about?
So I wanted to do a podcast. Ever since I really figured out what a podcast was. It started off with, of course, most people will remember Serial, the true crime podcast, kind of the grandmother of podcasts that came out. And then I jumped into true crime. And once I had gotten into everything, I discovered the show. I don't know if you guys have heard of it or not. King Falls.
Heard of it, yeah.
Not familiar with this, no.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Not ringing any bells.
It was, it was actually pretty darn awesome. But I started listening to that. COVID hit. And when COVID hit, I was like many of us were struggling for something to do. So I said, hey, let me write something down. I've listened to that the show I mentioned. I can't remember now what it was. Let me reach out to some of the guys there and just see if I can get some tips and tricks and just kind of some input on what, how to do it. And, they embraced me in a very questionable way.
We are huggers.
Yeah, no, it was anyway. So, they encouraged me the whole time. The setting itself, the South Pole, and I think I've talked to other people about this too. Really, I have this memory of when I was a child back in Emporia, Kansas. My dad, who was military, wanted to buy a new car. It was a station wagon, so I'm pretty sure it wasn't his idea. But the guy at the dealership said, hey, it's on a Sunday. I will stay late. We honor our servicemen and women here. Had to come home, get my little 2-year-old butt, drove me to this car dealership, which in Emporia, it's on the far side of the town. So it's dark. It's Sunday. It's like 7 or 8. It's in the winter. There's a fog rolling around. And for just that little kid sitting in a 1976 lobby with the wood paneling walls, and it smelled like 1976, with cigarette trays, and it in the shag carpet. I was alone by myself, but you know what? It was just so cool. The world's out there. I know the world's out there, but for just that little bubble, it was just me, my pop in the other room, and the car guy that wanted to get the commission. But it's that setting where you can have a world at your fingertips, at your arms. But after that, the world is just not there. You have to go looking for it. Kind of like that other show I was talking about, King Falls. It's the majority of their episodes were like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. You knew people were out there, but most people were asleep. And it's just the world was then theirs. The world was theirs, and it was theirs to command. And it was, such an awesome feeling. Trent and I have talked about that. Some of our, The Thing, he and I share a special bond on that. The one up in Barrow, Alaska, 30 Days of Night, where it's just, you got your setting, but then there is no world beyond it. So I think that that's a very roundabout way of just saying I was on a lot of medication at the time.
No, I think you bring up a cool point. Isolation is sort of an interesting concept, isn't it? Because it allows your brain to be a little bit more creative, where there's less noise and less distraction. And then you have the ability to sort of analyze how much you do or don't need human contact. So I don't think I would have thought of it that way, but very cool.
Agreed. No, thank you. Good point. Thank you.
Very, very cool. Okay, Trent, so you mentioned that you've been doing voice acting for quite some time now, and you've been on several different shows. I've heard you on one of the shows that we mentioned, King Falls AM. I've actually spotted your voice on other random podcasts that I've just kind of come across. What attracted you to this show, and why did you decide to lend your voice to it?
If I remember correctly, Kyle called me, and I had met Brian via one of Kyle's classes he was doing. So I just popped in to say hi and kind of get my support on that. And that's like the first time I ever saw or heard Brian. But Brian was doing artwork for like every episode of our show. There was like this amazing one panel that encompassed everything of the show, like literally all the best jokes, the best gags in one panel. So Kyle calls me one day and goes, look, there's a fan of the show. I think you met him online. He's doing his own podcast. I don't think he's going to call you though, but he'd love to have you on it. And I said, sure. The guy's a good dude and he's an amazing artist. I'll call him and see what happens. And figured I'd do like a one-off or something. And so we connected and he sent me scripts and immediately I went, wait a minute. there's a lot of meat
I
on
know
this
that.
bone.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
This
I'm
is
like,
really good.
wow, this is really good. And he was like, look, pick anybody you want. And so I did. And I called him and said, I want to be every male character until
feels
you
right.
tell me I can't do them. And he was like,
That feels
what?
right.
Yeah, like, I want to be them all.
That's
But
that's the casting process with Mr. Shumway for sure.
Yeah, I'm like, but I know at some point you're going to go, no, that one's Cash or that one's not, you're not right for that. But so I'll just throw a wide net, cast a wide net out there and see what I can rake in. So at that point, we just started talking. And it was like, okay, you can be the lead and you can do this and you can do that. And so, once I started reading the scripts, I was in. I was like, I have to be a part of this. And I think I even told him, if you don't let me be a part, I'm going to come and find you. So.
Is that how it works? Is that how you get on a show? That's like
Yeah,
the
you
best
just-
strategy?
Yeah, just threaten people.
You just threaten
people.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll literally do
Noted.
every character. I don't want any other cast members, and if you don't like that, I am pretty tough.
I feel like that makes scheduling more convenient, though, because it's
It
just
does.
like Trent, you just block the whole day because we don't have to get anyone else in there.
No. I mean, we have a extremely talented cast. As a matter of fact, we have, I think, 7 people who do 2 or 3 voices each at least. So, I'm not the only one doing, double duties on this thing. There's a lot of people doing incredible work, and the variety and the versatility and the range that everyone is able to pull off is incredibly impressive. So, but that's how I got involved.
Well, you just segued really, really nicely because my next question is for Kyle. And Kyle, you do actually play 2 characters, and they have pretty different personalities. So tell us about, we have, that I have a great affinity for firefighter Fred Ferguson, because you asked me one time, you were like, really, it's Fred that you like? I'm like, no, I love Fred. But then you also have IT station specialist Emery Waters. How did you kind of settle in on the voices and personality for those 2 very different characters, and which one is your favorite?
Fred is my favorite for sure.
See?
I get to be unhinged with Fred, and there's a lot of stuff that hits the cutting room floor, and it's probably best that way. But I do enjoy a nice Fred rant. But yeah, I'm just realistically tagging into what Trent said. Brian reached out to me. Brian was a huge part of the King Falls AM community. We had a beautiful, beautiful community over the beautiful, beautiful community. The best community, some would say. Some would say the best community, but we did have a wonderful online presence and such a beautiful community of folks. And Brian was a big part of that. Like Trent mentioned, he would throw out little posters and everything for episodes that would come out there. And he eventually said, "Hey man, I'm doing something. Would you be interested in just giving me, taking a look at it?" I think was the actual conversation. And I read the first episode. I'm like, oh, this is not just I dream of putting a podcast out. I put some hard work and thought into this thing. So realistically, long story short, I'm just trying to serve the story. I will say I do try to maximize my minutes. You know what I mean? If I can sneak a joke, I'm trying to serve the story. But if I can add some giggles in there, I definitely try to read the room and see what I can add into it. But yeah, it's serving the story, and the story's phenomenal.
Agreed. Definitely agree. Trent, let's bounce back to you. So
Okay.
kind of talking a little bit more about character development. As you mentioned, when you read the script, you're like, right, I want to be the lead, and then I'm going to be everybody else that you let me. Let's talk about Bass, though. So I've noticed many of your characters on the shows you've been on are quirky. They've got these very distinct voices. They're very, very unusual and memorable. And in contrast, Bass is almost more of kind of the straight man, right? He's got more closer to your normal speaking voice. He is someone you might actually meet in real life versus kind of these like quirky characters that you've voiced
Sure,
in the past. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the development of Bass. And then in a future episode, we're going to dive into kind of the evolution of his relationship with Kendra. But you can touch in on a little bit of that too, and kind of how he's changed over the seasons.
It's funny you mention it because I think the first things we landed on were the quirky ones, right? I mean, because Brian and I ended up, from that point on, like once we started communicating, I don't think there's been more than a few days that goes by that we haven't talked to each other. Like we talk to each other practically every day. And immediately we were just like 2 kids with, their toys. And it was like your buddy is bringing over all of the cool stuff you didn't get that Christmas, but you got all this other cool stuff, and you were just kind of playing and bouncing back and forth. And the first things we landed on was all the quirky stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. It was.
Bass was I knew I wanted to do him, but we weren't sure on him yet. And we played around with a couple different voices, and then one day we just started talking about Kevin Conroy and his Batman voice, and he said, why don't you just do you, but just get a little lower register, and give me that kind of scary voice when he needs to be serious. And I think we messed around with him definitely the longest out of all the characters. Everybody else was kind of, that's maybe not true. Actually, there's a couple new ones that are we played around with recently. But yeah, Bass was like, we knew we wanted him to be a kind of a stoic sounding dude, and yeah, he was kind of no nonsense. That was actually challenging because on Falls and anything else I did, it was pretty much, do something not cartoony or too exaggerated.
Wild.
Yeah, definitely wild, definitely quirky. So it was a great contrast to be able to pull off someone that was like, and like Brian, does incredible amounts of research, and his dialogue for everything is thoroughly researched to where you sound official, and when you're doing Bass dialogue and you're rattling off terminology and stuff, you're going to sound like your shit.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because you can hear it as you're doing it, going, wow, that actually sounded pretty good. If I had to write it, I'd be like, I'm going to go get the bad guy, lock him up, put him in the pokey. No, we just kind of bounced around between different ones and figured out which ones we wanted, me to do. And then there's a few that we recognized. All right, well, can't do that one. And then a couple I think I gave away. I was like, give that to him, and we'll see what happens. And then Magic, like there's a few that Owen got to play that I'm sad now that I said give that to him, but at the same time, I couldn't pull off what Owen does on that. So
Right.
I hope that
Nice.
answer your question.
Absolutely, it did. Kyle, before you mentioned something about some of your ad-libbing kind of landing on the cutting room floor. Now, I've actually been told, I have this on pretty good authority, that there are some bloopers from this show that are available to our Patreon subscribers for 90 Degrees South, and they possibly showcase those ad-lib abilities. So definitely worth checking out. But you, in your own career, have you actually done any stand-up? Have you done any improv? Is that a part of your history?
So I was in an improv group before I moved to California. There was about 7 or 8 of us. It was called Permanent Detention. And we did live shows. We did videos. Some of them are still out there. And it was just such a great time. I've always wanted to do stand-up. It was my dream to either be a professional wrestler or to work on SNL. So since one of those didn't work out, I've tried to do as much SNLing as I can on my side.
There's still time, Kyle. Never give up on your dreams.
I don't know about that. Can I jump in with you? I don't want to throw everything
Of
for a loop,
course.
but I
Of
want to
course you
jump
can.
on to Trent's question because
Yeah.
I know, going back to the Maximize Our Minutes, Trent, when you were playing in a different lifetime, when you were playing all the many characters you played in King Falls, we were always trying to literally one up the joke.
Always.
How do you do that in your process with Bass? Is it just
That's a great
just
question.
let me know. Like, do you just like, is it just everything that Brian has written? Are there times where you're like, let me see if we can elevate this somehow?
I mean, I never think of it as elevating. For the most part, it is exactly what Brian has written. Occasionally, there will be just a subtle change, maybe, or a suggestion, but it's pretty rare with Bass because he is pretty much no nonsense. But typically, what ends up happening is we will I'm a 3-take kind of guy. Like the sweet spot for me is the 3rd take for sure. And we will do at least 2 as it's written. And then the 3rd take, Brian, and you two, or in King Falls, were also very open to the idea of look, if you can improve upon it, do it.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean we're going to use it, but every idea is open on the
Once
table.
we got it, we got it. Let's see what
Once
happens.
we got it, and let's see what happens. And that Brian's always been very open to that. And there's been times with Bass where we will maybe add a little bit something, but mostly it's what's on the page with him. Because most of the stuff he's doing is it's not clinical, but it's like it is.
There's a lot
very
of
serious,
jargon.
very stoic, and even when I think there's a lot of jargon. There's a lot of jargon, and it sounds official, and it's got to be. And for a dyslexic dumbass like myself who struggles through dialogue, sometimes I find that I have to kind of lock into it and really try to hit it. But then they'll come back and go, "Actually, you said that word wrong." I'm like, "Which one was that?" He's like, "The." Oh, sorry.
I don't know what he said. I don't know that he knows what he said. I no. You know what? I disagree with the majority of what Mr. Shumway just said. There, especially with Bass, and most of the other characters that he does play, there will be times where we'll be either right before we jump into the scene where he says, "Hey, I got a question. At this point, Bass says this. Wouldn't he say this?" And sometimes it is actually, that is a damn good point. I think he honestly would. Or as we're recording, and I've seen him do this numerous times where we record, and he has it in his head. He won't always vocalize it. It's take 2, take 3. And then finally he's like, I'm going to throw something at you. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but I'm just going to throw. And a lot of times what he throws out as Bass, as Zeke, as Wayne, whomever, it's actually really good. There are many takes that make it into air that were not on the page. So, for those individuals that say it's all on the page, I don't agree.
Well, agree to disagree, I guess.
Yeah.
So, Brian, since we've kind of got your attention here, do you think of our show as a drama show, a fiction show, maybe science fiction? What genre would you put this show in? Because it kind of touches all of them. And how long do you see this story going on?
I think it has elements of all the above. It's definitely, science fiction-y. I mean, that maybe comedy skirting paranormal comedy fiction. We have spoiler alert. We have demons. We have bumbles.
Alternate reality.
Ultimate reality. Yeah. But I mean, there is absolutely 100% a
Peppermint.
ghost. We have a spirit, caribou dancing wind spirit. It skirts kind of all over the place, and I don't like to be tethered as just comedy or science fiction, or because I think that is doing a disservice to the story that could be told, because you can cross over. We have aspects of romance. We definitely have aspects of romance. We have comedy, mystery, drama, political intrigue. I can't do that joke yet because it hasn't aired. I kind of call myself to the mat on that in lieu to reference of another show that aired. I'll leave that for when it comes up. But I would say if I would call us a smorgasbord of menu items that would be a show that if you are a fan of romance, we got you. You're a fan of comedy, of science fiction, we got you. Political intrigue, we got you. We're something for everyone.
A little something for everybody.
Yeah.
You're sort of the Taylor Swift of podcasting. You can do every genre.
I definitely don't have anywhere near the talent that Brooks, the boyfriend, or
It's
the
the
height.
boyfriend, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then how long do you see the show going?
sorry.
We're on season 3 so far.
So each season is half a year in our show. So one full year our time is 2 seasons their time. I'm thinking probably it's going to be about a 5-year run. So I would say that would probably put it anywhere between, I'd say probably like 8 to 9 seasons is probably what I'm gunning for. I'd say, yeah, it's definitely, I have the end of the story in mind. I know how it's going to end. I know the key points along the way, the milestones along the way that I need to hit. So yeah, I would say probably 7, 8, maybe 9.
Okay, and that actually leads me to another question, which I think is equally for Brian and Kyle, since both of you have written multi-season successful audio fiction podcasts. You just said, I know how it's going to end. I know some of the plot points along the way. I'm assuming you have not written every single script for 8 or 9 seasons. Talk just a little bit about kind of what that process looks like and how you set those targets and know that you've hit your major plot points and keep that story moving.
The chair defers to the gentleman from California, Mr. Brown.
I have a question for you, Brian, in regards to this as well. So take that, motherfucker.
Answer that question with a question.
Realistically, I did want to know. So I know how it was on Falls, and unfortunately, we did not get to the end of Falls. To much to everyone's chagrin, a cast, crew, and fan alike. But I do have a question. I know when things worked in King Falls, like when it went from page to recording, and you're like, oh, this is something we can run with. Have you encountered that sort of thing where it's like you hit a character or a plot point that just seems to resonate past you, past the paper, past the cast, to the audience, where it's like, okay, we can amend something here. We can shift things this way. Because I think that's where the magic of it all comes in, right? Like we've all got an idea of what, like, you know, we know where it starts, we know where it ends, right? But I love the magic in the middle of it where you're just shifting around and finding those sweet spots that you enjoy, the cast enjoys, the audience enjoys. Have you found those?
So absolutely. In our ongoing, tennis match on this one question, I will bounce it back and to say Firefighter Fred. Firefighter Fred was supposed to be a one and done character. He was supposed to show up for one scene, do his little spiel, be misogynistic, and then we were never going to hear from him again. He was going to cycle off of the station at the end of the season, like many do. And then you came, you kind of gave Fred, his own flavor. I had very much in my head, I had more of like a Carl from Aqua Teen Hunger Force, kind of a character in mind, kind of that aged, older, but beyond his prime, but he doesn't know he's beyond his prime.
Yeah.
Character for Firefighter Fred. And when you came in, you just knocked it out. And I said, there is no way I can get rid of this character. This character will continue to come back. But, I think the same can be said for a lot of the characters that were there. It's Jovac again. Jovac was supposed to be our big heavy next to Wainwright. Jovac was supposed to be our big heavy and was going to get into it with Bass. And then when Trent came out with that voice for the first time, he just became such a beloved character that, it's I could not see A, losing him, and B, having him be the heavy. So I had to create another scientist just out of, the ether, Gustav Van Sant, who was going to be kind of that jerk, not to the Wainwright level of jerk, but, it's definitely... There have been times where, I know where things need to hit. I know where we need to land. But there are the nuances. I will be the first to say, yes, the major points are major points, but sometimes the biggest thrill, the biggest kudos you can get are for those little things that, the casting inspired you to do, the cast inspired you to put in there. We get so many people to this day, talking about the end of season 2. I won't spoil it in case anyone hasn't listened yet, but just the tone that it ended on resonated with so many people. The IT guys are fan favorites. There are a couple
Definitely.
of detractors out there. It's not their cup of tea, and that's okay. That it's not for.
Are they on
but,
Reddit, these detractors?
Yeah,
Let me know.
Kyle, no Reddit.
I
No Reddit, Kyle.
I will
Amazing.
make no comment upon where I have been told that they are. So it's while the story is fleshed out, I find the story maturing and evolving every time I sit down in front of the keyboard. And that, I think, is really what keeps me coming back. Not just, definitely it's the voice actors, it's the talent, it's the love that they have for this little stupid wacky thing that I put together. But it's just seeing these characters mature and kind of get a life of their own where, they almost become like family in a strange sense.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, we're going to jump a little bit to kind of another segment. Just a reminder that in future episodes, we will use this space to start recapping and kind of diving into the details of the episode. But we're not doing that in this first one. We're moving straight into listener questions. So everybody make sure that you stay tuned at the end for Kyle's big announcement. We're going to give him some space. And then just a reminder too, I mentioned, this first one, we're not doing the recap, but I also want to mention this first episode is for everyone. It's for all of our fans. But starting on our second one, we will be moving behind a paywall for this particular podcast. So if you're loving this episode and you want to hear more about how the show's created and hear from the voice actors, be sure that you join and contribute. And you can find that Patreon page for 90 Degrees South by going to our website, which is the number 90 Degrees Podcast, all one word.com. If you scroll all the way down on the homepage, you'll find the link to join the Patreon. So we're going to start with some questions from Patreon and then a few questions from other places that listeners sent them in from. A few people asked multiple questions. So we will be sure that if we don't get to your question in this episode, we will definitely get to it in a future episode. So let's go ahead and get started. This is from L Link over on Patreon, and this one can be for anyone.
L.
In fact,
L.
Love L.
way to go, L. This question's for anybody, or actually all three of you should probably answer. What is your favorite reference to another piece of media in the show that either no one has gotten or just like a couple people have gotten?
And actually, that's. I won't go too long, so the other guys can answer it. But I'm gonna kind of take the sword on this to let them percolate their answers. I definitely write for an older audience, and that's just because I am an older guy. So a lot of the references that I put in, I'm really worried that I'm skewing to an older demographic. Definitely I will put in, some 1980s, 90s slang that, we grew up with. Zeke all the time will, keep on saying snap. I don't think any of the kids today have ever heard that. It's some of those things that I put in. A lot of the references that I do put in, people get. The whole, the tip of the hat, the allusion to Diane from that Bass, narrates to from Twin Peaks. I have peppered my show with lots of MASH references because growing up, that was the show to watch in our household. That was our Golden Girls from the Brown House. Definitely that was the show we liked. And just one or two things that we'll throw in, but for the most part, when I tend to skew old, I definitely feel my age, and 90% of the time, no one. I'm sure there are people out there that got it. They just don't, hit us up to say, "Hey, we got the reference."
Brian, what's your favorite thing that nobody's said yet that is seemingly unfound?
Oh my God.
No spoilers, of course, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's, oh my God, put me on the spot. God, oh. Well, and again, I'm not sure that anyone has, because I remember calling up Trent, and I'm like, oh, should I do this? Should I put it in? He's like, yeah, go ahead.
The answer's always yes.
Oh, yeah.
Last episode, and it will not be a spoiler if there are those that have not yet gotten to this point. Last episode, season 1, where the season is ending, they're getting everything together. I very blatantly, and I did not try to allude that it was mine. If you are a fan, you will pick up on it like that. The speech from Aliens,
that was
where Sergeant Apone is giving orders to the crew as they're trying to get it, and I blatantly lifted those lines and was like, let me. I'm not trying to plagiarize. I'm trying to give credit where credit is due to those who came before me, but also because that scene is, and I think I just stole Trent. So
That's definitely my answer.
So, I think that would be the one. So Kyle, so we can give Trent more time to come up with something.
Oh no, I'm sticking to my answer.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I look at it this way, though. I mean, to me, it's almost like hip hop, where sampling is done, and suddenly nowadays it's easy to figure out where a beat came from because you have the internet. When we were kids, you had no idea unless you happened to have those records or whatever. So to me, it is kind of like that, where you're throwing in a sample and tipping your hat to, your James Camerons or whoever. In this case, I mean, we're huge fans of Aliens and The Thing, like he was talking about, like, and we're pretty much convinced that Brian and I were probably separated at birth at some point. My mom has not confirmed that. She denies it vehemently, but she's not. I don't know. It's
Has she ever been to Kansas,
it's
my
not
friend?
Convincing. That's the thing. Is that,
You asked that question.
Yeah. And it's scary sometimes how much we think alike or whatever, or he'll say something like, God, I was just thinking about that. And yeah, when he called me and said, I really want to put in that whole bit with the loading dock, I'm like, do it. Because I mean, I can't see anyone getting offended by it. It's like, it's literally, you know, a tip of the hat to one of the greatest sequels, if not films of all time. So that's my answer too.
Nice. Kyle?
I'm going to say something completely self-serving here. And I don't mean it in a mean way at all. But I am honored by the little King Falls Easter eggs that Brian has put into the show here and there, whether it be a name or a little line here and there or something like that. I, when writing King Falls and tagging into what Trent is saying, I love a pop culture reference. I live a pop culture reference. You know what I mean? Yeah. And not only that, not as it is a little wink and a nod to the folks who get it, but it's also in my life, it seems like we're building this story in the same universe. Because if we can reference it, that means it's in this universe that we all know, right? So I love an Easter egg in that sense. And again, very humbling, very honored by the fact that Brian would throw in little King Falls AM references. Because, I mean, obviously the show means the world to me still to this day. So, like I said, very self-serving, but it's very true. Like every time I hear a little K-Fam reference or something like that, I'm like, that's cool, man. I appreciate that.
Well, the show is important to a lot of us, Kyle, and so it's exciting to get to revisit it in little pieces. And, as a listener and as a cast member, when we hear those and see those, it's a smile on our end, too.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, our next question is from Tatum Adams. This is also from Patreon.
Hi, Tatum.
Tatum would like to know just how much of the cast's personalities end up in the characters. So she said she knows that Trent is a big horror fan, and there have been mentions of horror movie marathons and makeup, which she thought was really cool. So how much of Trent or Kyle makes it into these characters?
Well, am I answering first, I guess? With Bass, I don't think there's, the makeup thing for sure, but like Bass he's someone you kind of wish you were, but at the same time, knowing all his deep, dark secrets, I'm glad I'm also not him.
Sure.
But yeah, there was, he started writing Wolfman stuff in there, and I'm like, God damn it, Bradley. All right. Well, if we're going to do this, then we're going to, shout out and tip a hat to Jack Pierce, because if you're going to mention, something about the Wolfman makeup, it's like, well, then you got to talk about the guy who literally changed and to this day, his designs are being used for the classic monsters of all time. So if that's any indication of my personality, yeah, I'm a horror guy. I guess Bass is too. With the other characters, I don't know. I think there's a little of me in all of them, sure, but I don't know. I'd say the quirky ones are probably closer to me than the stoic lead, for sure.
That's fair. And then, Kyle, is it safe to assume that you and Firefighter Fred are essentially the same person?
Yes, 100% the same person.
Misogynist.
Or none. No, it's interesting because I remember reading the initial lines for Firefighter Fred, and I saw that there was a lot of meat on the bone for comedy, obviously. But also I was like, this guy, he's reading like kind of a prick, because he is a prick.
Right, sure.
And I'm like, I wonder if we can find a little bit of heart, because when I'm trying to do something, realistically, like if I'm writing my own thing, you can be one thing, but nobody is just one thing. There's a lot of other colors and a lot of other flavors in that one thing. So I try to find something there writing wise to like, yeah, he's a bastard, but also here's this portion that's not.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I tried to bring that to the Firefighter Fred guy. I'm not saying I've got a big heart or a great heart or anything like that, but I did try to find a little bit of small, like, there's a good guy in there saying bad things. Does that make
Sure.
sense?
Yeah, two things can be true at the same
Yeah,
time.
exactly that.
Okay, this next question is specifically for Brian, and it's a little bit more serious than some of them that we've kind of talked through so far. So, Brian, could you please start calling your mom more often to check in? And then, second question, will women who raised you and kept you alive for 18 years have to pay for future episodes? And this is from a Deanna Bradley. I'm not sure if you know her.
Yes, we do not discriminate. Everyone will have to pay equally to get on the show. There's no nepotism on the show. Thank you.
You're going to be written out of the will
Yeah.
for sure. Your poor mom. Okay, let's see, Trent. This one is for you.
Okay.
And this
It's
is
from you, Trent. Trent, you'd put in questions.
from Trent to
Mr.
Trent.
Shumway, how did you get to be so handsome and so talented?
It's just
Well-
Trent looking in the mirror and monologuing for the next half hour.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
Okay. Actually, you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, so we'll go into more detail, but I do want to make sure I credit this question. So this is from Dig Doug Dang over on Facebook.
I love
Great
Dig
name.
Dug Dang. Dang, you say?
It is Dig Doug Dang.
Love it.
That is a great
I
name.
used to love Dig Dug. That was a great name.
Okay, Trent, is there any voice that you have come up with that didn't make it onto the show? And this can be for any show that you've worked on.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of this
Yeah.
answer, just by the way.
There's been a couple, but it kind of tagging on to one of Pal's answers, which was, it wasn't right for the story. And if it wasn't right for the story, then it didn't work. And that's I don't want to use filters or anything on my stuff. I don't like pitching my voice up or down. If the voice can't come out of me, if the sound can't come out of me, then we'll find something else. And if I'm not right for it, then we'll find someone else.
Yeah.
But there's been a few characters that, and I'm a pain in the ass too. Like I second guess everything. So I will call Brian. We've recorded like an entire episode, and then 2 hours later, I'm on the phone with him going, "I don't know about that one. But
Did that work?
I don't know. I don't know if it works." And he's, "Are you sure?" I'm like, I don't know, man. And he's, let me edit it, and I'll send it to you, and then we can talk. But I mean, if you're dead set on it, we can adjust. But we could also maybe just listen to what you did. And like I said, I'm a pain in the ass. So I think there's been we've had at least 2 or 3 characters, especially recently. We had one we just did. We recorded it almost the entire episode, almost. And I liked the voice. I think we both liked the voice.
We did.
However, it just didn't feel right. And I second guessed it and called him almost immediately and said, I don't think that's it, man. And I told him, like, I think that character needs to be cooler or something. So I'm at work and I get a text and he types in, "Would this be cool?" And he typed in a suggestion and I went, "Well, yeah, that goes a different direction. Let's try that." And then so we re-recorded it recently and we both agreed, like, that's probably more along the lines of what we want to do with that guy. But we'll save the other one for another time. I've been trying to push a Mike Lindell voice on both these guys for their different shows. I'm like, look,
Yes,
I got
yes.
it in the hopper.
That's a fact.
Yes.
Can we use him? And I don't know, man. Like, maybe eventually, sure, but yeah, and every once in a while I'll just call, like on Falls, I've called those guys. I call Eric and Kyle constantly and go, "What do you think about like a Tom Waits?" Or I call Brian and go, "I want to do like this kind of voice." And it's like, all right, and it works out. It's like, okay, we'll build off of that, or we got someone just in mind for that, and they'll throw a character at me. So
Are these calls coming through at like appropriate hours, or is it like the 3 a.m. like I can't sleep, I've got to call Brian kind of
there's
thing?
been numerous times I forget the time difference. And I think there's been a couple drunk dials that I've done with
that goes
Brian.
both ways.
Yeah.
That goes
We
both
need to
ways.
record those, I think.
No,
I need to
we
hear
don't.
a drunk conversation where you're workshopping a voice. I think that's
no,
another
no.
Patreon
That's
tier.
right, Patreon
No,
fans. You too can cancel everyone on this call with just a couple bucks.
Couple bucks and a couple of bottles. Send it our way. Send a
Okay,
3x5
Brian.
card to 555.
You are up next, Brian. This is from Cassandra4348 on X, which we all used to call Twitter back in the day. Talk about a
Never
aged
stopped.
reference now.
Sorry.
No, I'm not either. I'm not going to
Let's be real.
subscribe to the
We're
new
not.
brand.
It's not X.
We're not doing it. Okay, Brian. So Cassandra assumes that you write the dialogue for the female cast members, and they think that it's hard to tell if a woman or a man wrote this. So do the female
Wow.
cast members of the show agree? I guess I probably need to take
was
this
gonna say, you
question
need-
as the female
you-
cast member in the room.
You're the only one. Yeah, I would say qualified. Well, first off, let me just say thank you. That is an awesome compliment.
Agreed.
I hope whoever I am writing for, be it male, female, non-binary, of one persuasion or another, one religion or another, that I am able to do it justice, and that nothing I put to paper, nothing that makes it to air comes across as condescending or disrespectful or cliche is not even the right word. But, you know, I definitely want to make sure, because we have many voices in the world, we have many voices, we have many many viewpoints, and I want to make sure that I do each and every one of them the utmost, nothing but the utmost respect, unless you're from Missouri, in which case you are dead to me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But Aaron, I guess, you would be of the four of us the only one that can really answer that question. So please.
Well, I mean, I agree. I don't think that it reads that a man wrote it. I don't think it reads that a woman wrote it. I don't find the dialogue at all to be stereotypical or cliche. I think an area where you really excel in your writing is leaning into the relationships. So it's not that it's gender specific or anything like that. It's really more about clearly establishing who the characters are. And I know, in the scenes that I've been a part of, my scene partner is Trent, and the longer that we work together and the more scenes that we have together, what we see is the relationship that Fiona and Bass have had, and the longevity of that, and the deep friendship, and how they care about each other and tease each other, and she gets mad at him. That's what reads through, not gender specific. It could be anyone, and I think that that's the way that it's supposed to be.
Thank you for that.
Good answer.
Okay, last listener question for this episode. This is from Morphtastic on Facebook. Are you guys familiar with Morphtastic?
Love the name.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay, so Morphtastic asks, is there really a poop bandit on the station, or is it a way for Mikhail to sneak around and find ways to give sitcom advice? What a critical question, because the sitcom advice is its own running theme. It's essentially a subplot. It's actually why I tune into the show, is just to see what we can learn from our sitcoms. So, yeah, I mean, is there truly a bandit out there? Is this just a plot device?
Poop bandit. Make no mistake about it. There is indeed a poop bandit, and you will be found, poop bandit. Mark my words.
Yes, there is a poop bandit. I will save this story for another day when Mr. Brown is not able to join us.
Oh dear.
But there was a time in my life where we had a poop bandit, and anyways, long story short, I know who the character is. I am the only one. There have been major plots, major secrets, major little things that I've had to call up the cast members and say, look, your character knows this. Your character acknowledges this, but the listeners will not know about this for another year. But as you're portraying your character, you need to know this so that you can incorporate that into how your character acts, reacts, thinks. And I did that very early on. I have not told anyone. My own wife does not know who the poop bandit is. So if there should be something, and all you haters out there, like I said, if you truly want to know who the poop bandit is, pray that I never get a cold or a disease or get hit by a truck, because that secret, unless I put it in the show, and I will towards the end, will never see the light of day, and no one will ever know who the poop bandit is. I know who it is.
You're like George R. R. Martin. You've got it locked away in some like vault somewhere, and no one's got the key to it.
George R. R. Martin also had a poop bandit, though, so be careful.
Well, now,
I think that was in
we don't
Westeros.
want
I
to
think
see.
so thanks, Aaron. You just spoiled it. It's Tyrion Lannister is the poop bandit.
I'm so sorry. I ruined everything for everyone.
All right, but no, yes, there is a poop bandit. The listeners will find out ultimately, and our chief detective Mikhail will discover it.
I'm so happy for Mikhail to be able to have a resolution. I know it's really been very upsetting for him. You know, I do want to actually come back to something you said a moment ago, Brian, not to like just totally move from the comedy, but you were talking about how you write things and the character knows things, but the voice actor may not know that yet. And it made me think about a scene that I had early on, and I won't reference it because it kind of leads itself to the season 2 resolution. But there was a certain way that the dialogue was written, and I tried to play it the way the dialogue was written and I'll be really honest, I didn't really understand why it was written that way, but I tried to follow directions. And then I got to the end of season 2 and I'm like, oh, Fiona knew that. So I think it's really interesting that you found a way. I did not know, Aaron did not know, but Fiona did. And the way that you wrote that made that very clear. So that's a neat trick.
That particular, and I know exactly what you're talking about. And yes, that was one, the character you play, Fiona, has always been one of Bass's biggest, leaners onto one of, not supporters,
Support system, kind of.
Support system. Thank you. Perfect. Support system. So the last thing she wanted to do was to, kind of poke him, with a stick about this. So, she knew he needed to handle this to the point that it was, and she'd been waiting and thank her, for she would have waited for a very long time until he was able to approach it. So yeah, and that there was a reason why I didn't tell you is because I needed you to portray that as if I wanted to make sure that at no point when there was something to be referenced about it, there was no little slip because the listeners are not, thick. They are not, foolish. They're not dumb. They pick up, there have been many things they have picked up on and have tried to ask me about, and I've always just tried to, bob and weave. But that was one I just went because it was going to be our huge review, and it was.
Right, it was.
So I needed to make sure, not that I was keeping you in the dark intentionally.
No, not at all.
But I was keeping you in the dark intentionally.
I know when I figured that out, when I was listening back and I figured it all out, my mouth was just hanging open. I was like, oh, that was so clever.
Nah.
Okay, so we do have a final piece of business that we have to take care of here. So we've been teasing this whole episode that Kyle's taking this platform as an opportunity to make a very exciting and special announcement on something that he's been working on. So Kyle, I hand the floor over to you.
Well, my gosh, guys, thank you so much for that. And I'll try not to bore all of you too much with the talk of the new stuff. I also don't think you can talk about the new stuff without talking about the old stuff. And I'll just cover that very quickly. First off, there would be no new stuff without these gentlemen here that are sitting there, Trent and Brian. When the old stuff abruptly ended, I think us as a fandom, we were all hurt by it. And I think sometimes, and not to get into the weeds here, but I also think that sometimes the folks that are sending out those tweets or sending out those Facebook messages also forget, like, we lost the show too. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wanted to end the show. Nobody envisioned when we started this thing in 2015 that it would suddenly end the way it ended. Because realistically, we all thought we were just getting started. We were hitting on all cylinders. But it is something that I absolutely love. It is something that I absolutely adore. And in an alternate universe, it's something that would still be going on right now. But that's not the case in this universe. In this universe, I looked at it as getting knocked off the horse and needing to get back up on it again. And it took me a long time to get back up on it. Brian actually reaching out to me to read his script was kind of the first start of that for 90 Degrees South, because I really was like, I'm not doing this again. Not because I didn't love it, because I absolutely do love it. I love writing. I love playing with my friends every week. I love the reaction that it gets. I love being able to talk to people about it and just creating a community around something, right? Like that's the biggest thing to me. And I'm sorry if I'm already rambling, guys.
No, you're good.
But yeah, Brian passing that script over to me and being like, "Hey, man, I really respect what you did. Would you mind taking a look at this?" that was like, oh, that's interesting. You know, because Brian and I do, there's a lot of folks that from the Falls that I consider true friends. Everybody on this call, you know what I mean? But Trent and I were the only ones that worked on it. But I've met so many people through the internet, through the live shows, through whatever, that I consider personal friends. And I'm blessed for that. And I'm appreciative of every single person that I'm talking about right now. But yeah, Brian sending me that was like, oh, maybe there was something to it. You know what I mean? Because I'm someone who doesn't, I grew up, again, not to get into the weeds, I grew up not thinking too much of myself and being told not too much of myself. So when I'm told good things, I tend to shy those off. And when I'm told bad things, I tend to eat it up with a spoon because that's what I believe, or believed, if you will. But Brian kind of gave me that confidence to be like, oh, you want my opinion on this? Like, you know, you want to hear about this? And I gave him some notes, and we started having those conversations. And like, I was very lucky. I felt very lucky and very grateful to be brought into the not the planning of the show, but like as it was first starting to get on the runway, like Brian's like, hop on, man. And that gave me a lot of confidence to continue telling stories that I wanted to tell. You know, I had written a few things. I always write something for it. Generally speaking, I'm writing for myself every time I write. You know, because if I don't like it, who else is going to like it? But I had a couple different stories, had a couple of different stops and starts during the pandemic. But there was this one particular story that, and I'll just go ahead and say it. I am a lifelong professional wrestling fan, and I can hear the pin drop. I'm a lifelong professional wrestling fan. I started watching it when I was like 4 or 5 years old with my grandfather, and it was an every week thing. I got to sit next to him. And so, yeah, my grandfather, I don't know that he ever knew before he died that wrestling was fake. So it was a very entertaining way to watch wrestling as a kid. And of course, you know, as you grow up, you fall out of it. But also in the late 90s, when I was a teenager, not to date myself, wrestling was in a huge boom. The biggest boom it had ever had, or it ever had since when I was a little kid in the 80s. And I just fell back in love with it. And so to get to write a story that is a love story to something that I've loved all my life, that I wish I could have been a part of, I'm so excited to do it. But I'm even more excited to do it with my friends who, honestly, as I'm pitching this to every single one of these guys, both the ones here and everybody else, all the guys, gals, and non-binary pals on the new show, Reno Championship Wrestling, I always said the same pitch, like, it's going to be weird, but if you can get past the premise, I think you'll dig it. And every time they read the script, they're like, this is great. This is wonderful. And you know, I don't take compliments well, but I was like, man, if they didn't hate it, maybe other people will really dig it too. And we've just put together an amazing cast, amazing crew, lots of familiar voices. Like I saw, you know, I was lucky enough to be able to tell folks what it was that I've been working on for the longest time. I did that back in June, and June 17th, to be sure. No reason to pull that date. And but yeah, so I threw it out there, and as I was talking to people and like seeing the excitement, number one, it meant the world to me. The fact that people are still willing to show up, you know, after the way the last one ended or did not end. So that meant a lot to me. That means the world to me. But then also it was like, well, who's going to be in it? Oh my gosh, I'm praying for like a Noah and a Trent cameo. And I was able to say, we're doing better than a cameo. These guys are leads in the show. You know what I mean? And there's people that we've never met before. There's voice actors that it's their first time voice acting, that are just going to knock people's socks off. So again, I say this pitch that I said to my actors: if you can get past the premise, I think you're going to dig it. But yeah, Reno Championship Wrestling. It's set in 1994, so it is a period piece. It's set right before those years of the big boom of wrestling that I was talking about. So there's a lot of like, I don't want to say historical drama to it, but we are living in a world that happened. So with fictional folks. So there's a lot of fun that can be had with that. But it's meant the world to me, and I know I'm rambling now. It's meant the world to me to be able to tell a story set in the world that I love so much, that has given so much to me, and that I hope that I can. If people don't watch wrestling, that's great. You don't have to watch wrestling to get it. But if after the first 13 episodes of season 1, if they like, you know what, I get it. I get why people like this. I get then I've done my job properly.
When does it kick off? When can we look for it?
Summer 2024. Summer 2024.
Summer 2024.
We've got a lot in the can. We've got a lot of stuff that's already basically locked, and it's going to music right now. But yeah, just to be safe, summer 2024. It'll be the same release schedule as King Falls AM was on the 1st and 15th of every month. Like I said, the first season is 13 episodes because 13 is my lucky number. And man, I hope everybody listens and I hope everybody digs it. If not, I'm sure there'll be something else afterwards. But yeah,
I am so excited. I'm thrilled, and I am delighted that you picked this show to share all of those details.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for letting me share those details on this show.
It's all good, brother. All good.
But yeah.
Well, that feels like a perfect way to kind of wrap up this first episode. On behalf of myself, Trent, Kyle, and Brian, and our future special guests will be joining us, thank you for listening to our premiere episode of Something About the Ice. Friendly reminder that future episodes of this show will be available to Patreon subscribers at the behind the scenes tier. If you enjoyed this episode and want more, then we would love to have you. This is Erin McCann signing off.
This has been a BMB production.